Okay, so it's a good, clear introductory sentence. What is missing before this? What do we need before a noun? So, for example, I'm holding pen. What word is missing?
A pen.
A pen.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the same way, a diabetic patient. Okay. Now, the 60 years, it's okay, but there is a nice way that you can put these together. Okay. So, if we put here, how can we change this?
60 years old diabetic patient.
Very near. There's one more thing. There's one thing wrong with this. A 60 year.
No,
Yeah. When it becomes an adjective, we take away the S. So years, the noun, plural, but as an adjective, a 60-year-old diabetic patient. Okay, so this fits nicely together. And then we'll move your comma from there to there. Okay. So, thank you for seeing Mrs. Sharma, a 60-year-old diabetic patient, for further assessment and management of her sugar levels. Okay, that's a great start. Okay, so in this paragraph, you've talked about when she arrived and presented. When we talk about control, what preposition usually follows control?
Of.
Okay, good. All right, so presented with poor control of her sugar. I think a word might be missing. Level. Okay. And was worried about. No. Okay. Now, one important thing in the writing is showing your range of language. So it's not only the accuracy, but it's also the range. So here, the thing that I notice is that you've got advised twice in the same sentence. Now, they're both grammatically correct. They both fit in well with the meaning, but you could improve the range that you're showing by changing one of those. So that's something to consider when you are revising, reviewing and editing your letter. Okay, if you see that there is repetition, then you can think, which synonym can I use for that? Okay, so here we've got was advised for a follow-up, which you advise somebody to go for a follow-up. When you advise somebody medication, what are you doing as a doctor? Prescribing. Okay. All right. So here we will change that to prescribed. Good. Okay. Now, in your writing here, you have excellent use of the passive. Okay. It's really good. So the passive is vital in OET. Okay, because the style of your writing needs to be formal. Okay, and your register, the level of formality, is very good in your writing. Okay, so you've done well there. Okay, so you've moved on to the next paragraph and you're talking about 2 weeks later. So the second presentation. So again, this looks like a good structure to me. Now, here you've got the examination was done, and here, what is another verb that we can use to do an exam. So for example, for OET, you are planning to
And
OET.
test.
But what would be the verb? To something a test, to something an exam.
Oh, no.
You don't, for example, you said do an exam. What else do you do? Which verb can you use? So last Saturday I a test. I
Had a test.
had a test.
Yeah.
Another? We often say to take a test or take an exam. Okay, so you've repeated here. Okay, so this one, her eye examination, and you could say taken in, okay, rather than repeating. You've got good use of linkers. Okay, so here, normal, however. Okay, that's very good. And here, again, you've got a very clear statement of the next steps. I was about to say that the spelling was perfect, but in the final sentence.
I can see that.
Okay, so how would you change this now?
IES.
So you could say,
ERIES.
yeah, good, queries. Okay. So very small. Okay, but everything else, the spelling was very good.
Thank you.
Here, you've got the name of the recipient, and in your closing, you've got yours sincerely. So that matches. That's good. Okay. All right. So, when we look at the criteria, which we've said is important, okay. So, there is the purpose. Okay, so how clear is the purpose that you are writing for? Well, you've got a very strong introduction, okay, and again, you've reiterated the point here, okay, so that is good. So your purpose, I would say, is very clear. The content, again, if we look at the bands, okay, so which band do you need?
7.
7. Okay. So here, what you're aiming for, content is appropriate to the reader and addresses what is needed to continue the care. Okay, so key information is included, no important details are missing, and the content from the case notes is accurately represented. Okay, so here you've explained about the medication that was prescribed, and you've talked about when the patient returned, okay, and you've talked about the allergy to penicillin. Okay, so you've included key information and what's expected next. Okay, so again, the content there is good. Conciseness and clarity. Okay, did you count?
I think it's around 160.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not sure that the letter must be containing 180 words or it can contain less words.
Yeah, so the suggested length is from 180 to 200. So if you are reading your letter and you can see that it's significantly under, then you should revisit the notes and see if there is something important that you might have missed. Okay, all right, but it's not necessarily the case, but that is something for you to look at. Okay, but 180 to 200 should be the range. It's certainly concise. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would say what you've written is clear. There's nothing that is ambiguous. Okay, so that is another positive aspect. Genre and style. Okay, it is factual. Yeah, it's written formally. Okay, so the style is good. You talk, about the medication. You've got terminology. Okay, there's no slang or anything like that. Okay, so again, the styles you used are appropriate for this type of letter and for the recipient. Okay, so I think Dr. Smith would be happy with your letter. Reorganization and layout. Your paragraphs are certainly very clear. Okay, you've got an introduction, you have an ending, and you've followed a logical order. Okay, it links nicely together. Okay, I didn't need to read this 2 or 3 times to try and find the information. So your organization and the layout is very good. Okay, and finally, in terms of the language, as I said, the spelling was almost flawless. Okay, very good. Your use of punctuation was correct. Okay, we moved the comma here, but that's not an issue. It was just the style. Okay, the grammar you used, as I said, there was good control of the passive, of the tenses. There were a few minor errors, and a few examples where we can improve the range of language, but that doesn't take away from what you've written. Okay. All right. So, are you familiar with the criteria? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I would say, in terms of the purpose, it's very clear. The content is definitely appropriate. Okay, maybe revisit the case notes to check that, but the content, I'm happy with that. The conciseness and clarity, yeah, it's definitely not. I worry when I see one which is too long. Okay, and your genre and style with the level of formality was very good. Okay. Organization and layout. I could use this as an example in terms of the organization. I wish all my students had theirs as well organized as this. Okay. So you need to continue with this style. And the language, again, it's appropriate to the task, and your control of that is very good. Okay. So my recommendation to improve this is to consider the range of language. Okay, so that would be my main note for this. Okay, so I will add this. So, action, consider range of language. Avoid repetition. Okay, use synonyms. Okay, that is my action for you. Okay. All right.